On the 23rd of March 2013, I created my War Thunder account after having seen some YouTube videos, amongst them by Jingles, and today I want to share with you my story of playing War Thunder for 5 years and what personally has changed to a certain degree, how the game has changed, and then maybe some other topics, and if the video is not going to be long enough, then also answering some questions from the last Duck Talks, which was a while ago. So this is Duck Talks episode 52. Now, talking about not just YouTube, which is in conjunction here with War Thunder, but also War Thunder itself is the main topic of today's Duck Talks. And the question that you guys have is, how did it all start? Well, I was a bit bored one day after coming home, and I, as usual, watched some YouTube videos. Back in the days, I played mostly some single-player games, some older games, some newer games, amongst them also Crisis and so forth. And back in the days, I couldn't imagine to be where I am now. Now, this is nothing too special, but just in the shape and form of YouTube and also a free-to-play title. So it all started by going home, watching some YouTube video, and accidentally stumbling upon a video from Jingles where he had a fun time in the Catalina bombing the hell out of an enemy base in arcade. And I thought to myself, well, this is fun. And I did not know what I did to myself when I created the War Thunder account and started playing the game. Initially I said to myself, oh, it looks nice, but I don't really feel like spending money on the game. And well, later on that year I happily spent some money on the game because it was just simply fun. And I think some of these aspects have gone away and have turned into the worst, but more on this later. So I began to play War Thunder. I played my Germans and I played my Russians. I later on switched to the British, and then kind of the forgotten child, the Japanese. And one of my all-time favorite planes in War Thunder is the H6K4. And I just had the best time of my life within War Thunder playing this banana boat in arcade. It was fun. It was so much fun, and I played it with some of my friends, and it was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Some really stupid battles, landing on the airfield by capturing it with the belly, getting repaired within 5 seconds, and then just starting off again and just laying waste to the enemy team with the back 20mm gunner. Oh, it was glorious. It was glorious, and I don't regret playing it. And I think with this plane, I researched all of my Japanese planes back in the days, and it was just simply fun. So then I played and played and played and played. Tanks were not in the game yet. Half of the planes were not in the game yet. There were just 5 nations, not 7. And yet the game was different. I didn't really play simulator or even realistic. I was a pure arcade guy, and I loved it. And I watched some more videos of Jingles, and more and more and more. And to a certain point, I was not just not satisfied anymore with Jingles. I wanted a bit more regular War Thunder uploads. And so I watched Squire. Yeah, I know the jokes are there, Squire and regular uploads. Okay, jokes aside, Squire was one of many YouTubers that I then watched with his War Thunder content, and then I think years later he asked on Facebook if we might help him, or he asked some of the guys on Facebook if they will help him with a video, and he invited us to his TeamSpeak 3 hangar, the gentleman's hangar, and I happily joined. And this is where it really kicked off. Not just with this one video, but I came back more and more regularly, and then I spoke to not just some German people, but some American people, some British guys, and all over from Europe, from, you know, France even, or Poland, Italy, Greek, you know, you name it, you know, many countries. And I went into speaking English much more regular. I was constantly improved, and it was just hell of an experience. And then I also came into contact later on with people such as Microspoon, Max, and many more. And especially later on with the Orange Doom, I actually came to the conclusion after Chingles dropped his War Thunder content more and more and eventually left, that hell, why not really make my own YouTube channel? If I talk so much about the game, if I know so much, if I have so many ideas for videos that I harass certain peoples with, why not make my own YouTube channel? And this was really the cracking point like 2 years ago. And the thing about starting a YouTube channel is that you are somewhat hesitating with it. One of those reasons was that the game experience gets ruined by me, like Jingles got hunted down all the time and some other people got really focused down, and this hindered me to really kick off my own YouTube channel. There was not just the technical side of where I was like, oh, I never will understand how this works, all those videos that are out there. And let's just talk about this. So first of all, up until this point, I don't think that I was focused 2 games in a row. There are games where there are fanboys, there are games where I got team killed, but it's just one in several dozens of games. I can deal with that, especially since I got then into the mindset, well, fuck it, you know, just get out of the game, get into a new one, report that guy, and now I have my ways that it gets directly to somebody that kicks ass. If I have proof of that, so it's not just because I'm famous people get banned. So, you know, I still have to report the guy, I still have to send a replay, and then appropriate steps will be taken, hopefully. I cannot say this for sure, but I know somebody. Having said this is something that I rarely do. It has just happened to 2 guys so far, and they were really big assholes, and they really deserve to get banned, if they got banned at all. I cannot say it for sure because I never got confirmation. So this should prevent further happenings such as those. But you know, I think it is also the kind of videos that I do, and that I'm not that famous. I mean, I'm approaching 10,000 subscribers. I just recently breached 9,000, and you know, at this stage it accelerates itself faster. In the first stages of making YouTube, you're happy about your first 100, 200, 250 subscribers, and then the milestone 1,000 subscribers, 1,500. It almost took like 9 months, something like this, to get to this stage, and now I get 1,500 subscribers in 2 months, something like this, and that just tells you how accelerating it is. But that's the thing by nature, I guess. So yeah, I then simply called some guys that had an idea how to do YouTube, you know, from the technical perspective, how to set it up, and it was actually not all that difficult. You just have to do it one time. And I heard this tip before and I didn't want to believe it, and after all this I have to say it was not actually that difficult. You just have to take your time for it, 1 day's work, and a lot of things are set up, and then just produce something, you know. Watch your own video, what can you do better, and let us hear some confidence in your voice. Not like, hello, this is XYYZ, you know, I'm playing War Thunder today, and today we are in a Tiger, pretty nice tank, you know, and let's just shoot some T-34s, I'm so skilled, yo. No, this is, yeah. I remember my first videos and they were god awful with the commentary, and so by doing you get better. Eventually you will do some script writing. I did it myself for some videos, then I scrapped it because I never got used to it to write it down and then read it appropriately, and then, you know, I added some stuff, and then free talking is just something that I do way better. Yes, that raises the risk of some and and but I think if people are willing to listen to your stuff because you talk about the right stuff, and they realize that you know what you're talking about, then they will overcome certain things. Eventually, even a cheap microphone will do for the beginning, and that will will let you know if you actually will do it on a regular basis, which then is just beginning to be a hobby and is worth the investment. I never really regretted doing YouTube. It's a fantastic hobby. It's such a nice experience, not just interacting with a community worldwide, but also seeing the dark side of YouTube's, with the demonetization, with the apocalypse, and also with the scam that is out there in terms of people that just want stuff from you and just make you some ridiculous offers, and you know that they can't be true, and so forth. And one of the things that YouTube also helped me is to cut my costs, because I spent hundreds and hundreds of euros or dollars on the game. And to be honest, I don't regret it, because if you add it up, you know, it's a hobby of mine, and other hobbies are also not that cheap. And then War Thunder provided me with fun for 5 years up until a point now. So which other game does that? I mean, I spent a few $100s into World of Tanks and World of Warships, never really regretted it, but at a certain point, you know, those games just, I couldn't play them anymore. They were just too bad. And you know, with World of Warships, I might go back. It's still a okayish game, and it looks good and so forth. World of Tanks has now its graphical release, you know, up at 1.0. Meanwhile, War Thunder patch 1.77, making War Thunder looking better than ever. And in the beginning, you know, how has the stuff about War Thunder changed? I mean, it began with biplanes, it began with Germany and Russia for me, switching over to Japan, Britain, and eventually even America, and how the flight model changed, how certain planes changed from the 20 tier system to the battle rating system, which is much better. A shame that Gaijin doesn't really use the potential of the system. And then also, you know, graphical improvements over time, new additions in terms of planes, new game mechanics, new maps. I eventually switched over to realistic battles, or historical battles as they were called in the old days. And furthermore, we saw then the addition of tanks, and this was where I personally got really into War Thunder. I mean, previously I already played on a daily basis, and spent hours after hours, you know, not going out with my friends and so forth, just dumping time into War Thunder, and they were already calling me insane and nuts, and you're wasting so much time, and I was, yeah, but I have fun. And the thing was, tanks got added, and I got really into it, and I loved it, and this was really the turning point when I was just cutting my ties to World of Tanks once and for all. Not immediately, but over the course of a few months. And then we saw not just the German and also the Soviet tanks, but later on also the Americans and the British and the Japanese, then even later on the Italians, 2 of them, and then even the French and so forth. And when I reached 1,500 subscribers, like over a year ago, then I got into the Gaijin partnership program, as I just told you, and that helped me a lot to stick with War Thunder, stick with high tier, and dropping my costs. And I mean, I would be happy to play my T-34s, 85s, and my Panzer IVs and my Shermans once in a while, but to still play on a daily basis, I guess I wouldn't do it anymore. On a daily basis, that is, if I wouldn't have a YouTube channel and if I wouldn't love to make videos and receive the stuff from Gaijin. And I think it's stuff that profits both of us. Gaijin, because they get free advertisement, and I might convince 1 or 2 of you to buy a premium vehicle or not, but also save you from time to time the investment. Mogger 3 MX-30 premium, yeah, right. I mean, they are not worthless, but not really $50 in my personal opinion, and I'm always happy to listen to another opinion, but it's really the point when it gets to really hefty insults like fanatic, Nazi, and so forth, that I really have to question the sanity of certain people on the internet, you know. At the end of the day, it's a hobby that you can enjoy for free by just sitting in front of the PC or watching it on your mobile phone and so forth, you know. I think I never charged one of you anything, and you know, if my YouTube channel gets bigger or everything would crack down in real life and I would end up having no job, and something like this, and I would require the money from YouTube, then, you know, Patreon would be an option. But so far it's just a hobby. I try to improve myself, I try to get better with my editing skills and so forth, if I edit really much in the games. And one of the decisions, the long time decisions that I did, is that I just skipped the intro, and it's just a picture, and this picture is enough to tell you who the hell is making it, if you're too lazy to watch just the name or to read the name under the video. And I think very often I see some very fancy and expensive looking intros that are like 30 seconds long, that we all skip anyways if we have watched the channel for the third and fourth time, and I think that picture is enough. It might change in the future if ships come out, you know what's standing in the title, yes, you know it, if not, read it. But back to the topic, I think it's just the tone, the black, the red, the orange stuff, and just the name Napalmratte. By the way, it comes from very early days when I played Call of Duty 4 at my friend's house, and I just made for another profile a name, and I just came up with Napalmratte. I didn't want to name myself Gangster 113.3, something like this. I wanted a unique name, but not a stupid name, so Napalmratte seems fine. And yeah, so it leads me to this point where I'm just about to get 10,000 subscribers in hopefully the next 2 months, which would be really awesome. And of course, in real life a lot of changes have happened as well, but I don't want to talk about them for now. I'm just a guy on the internet that plays War Thunder for you. That's all that you need to know. So now we can move on to other topics, and let's just talk about the graphics of War Thunder. And I really have come to enjoy it in my ground battles when I was playing the tanks, you know, the top end tanks with all the mud and all the puddles, all this spiced up graphics. And I expect that the Dagger Engine 4.0 was not that cheap to create. On the other hand, you have to realize that it is an investment that Gaijin knows that they will get indirectly their money's worth out of it in return, by players that stick to the game, that new players that will come because they think the game looks pretty and so forth, and people just maybe buying 1 or 2 premium vehicles to play on those beautiful maps and beautiful ground and the sky and so forth. And we saw numerous improvements bit by bit. We saw at first, I guess, we saw the overhaul of the sky, which lead to many more battles in the night or late evening, and also early in the morning, you know, where the sun goes up and down and you see the orange sky. This has really intensified. Then also the water update, which we also can enjoy now and then in a War Thunder pre-closed beta naval test. And then also, you know, obviously with Dagger 4.0 here with patch 1.77. But again, this is an investment by Gaijin, and that I have no idea how much it costs to create something like this, to update a graphics engine or to recreate it, whatever. I don't know. I know just it looks nice and it's fun to play on the maps, but it doesn't really enhance the game experience in the way that I have more fun playing on the map. And I would gladly change for all the graphics if some of the balancing issues would be gone, if some of the game mechanics would work properly and so forth. And for example, if on large tank maps we actually would face off a large enemy team and not just 8 versus 8 like currently I am experiencing it in top tier battles, which is kind of boring. So I have no idea how much it costs to change a number in an Excel datasheet by one of the Gaijin developers, and I think in the long run that is one of the best investments that Gaijin could make. Rework certain aspects of the game and even rework certain maps, or just for RRB, they don't need to do the big overhaul of making an entire new map. To change certain aspects of current maps is everything that many people will ask for, and then suddenly the gameplay experience would be very different. For example, rework Spain for chat battles, or even make it smaller for biplane fights, which is kind of ridiculous that you have biplane fights on Spain, and many other aspects like these, different winning conditions and so forth. Again, in the long run I think it will serve the game. Then one aspect that I really noticed when I played my high tier tanks is that on the first day of the patch, or on the first few days of the patch, I immediately saw a lot of Leopard 2K drivers driving around with fully upgraded tanks. I saw a lot of M1 Abrams tanks, full teams on the first day, and even some challengers, but I saw no MX-30 B2 Brenners, and I hardly saw any T64B, but a lot of T64As. So my conclusion is, and this is a wild assumption here, so take it with a grain of salt, if you sort the tanks played by the nations, or the tanks of the nations played by the players of the same nation, then the German tankers and the American tankers are those who invested a shitload of real money into the game to get to their Abrams and Leopards and even upgrade them, and if we're at it, also add an ace crew on it to have the experience on the first day. While Russian players seem to really go through the grind by themselves with the T64A. And so this is kind of interesting, and even the last few days that I played, the MX-30 B2 Brenners and also the T64B, I noticed that there are still not a lot of T64Bs, and it's not really the tank's performance that holds it back or doesn't make it get spammed. Well, to a certain degree, obviously the Leopard 2K and the M1 Abrams are more popular by default, but also how much money the people spend on those free-to-play tanks. So that is that. So it just shows who's actually spending the money on the game to a certain degree, if we can make any conclusions from this observation. And then one thing that I really hate is a practice of Gaijin, and this is removing of already researched upgrades. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking here about, one of the recent things that I took away were the AP and the HE belt from the MX-13, and I had to research them from the MX-13 DCA, that is. Then also from the Hurricane Mark 1 late, the engine injection like the Sea Hurricane Mark 1B and 1C. And years ago we had the same time over and over again with, I guess, the Spitfires in particular, and if I'm not wrong, also BF-109s. And this is highly annoying because I did not get compensated for that. I had to play the vehicles to get back the upgrades, and at this point in time For some of them I golded my way through because I got so much gold from Gaijin, and I spent it in the right way, so I had a few 100 gold needles left to go over this unnecessary grind, at least for the MX13 DCA. So the next point would be probably the 50 caliber gun pods. For example, the discussion if they are useful or not. For example, on the PV2D or the SPD3 or the A36 for the Americans. And the question is, are they worth it? And the short answer is, it depends. For the PV2D, I don't think it depends or it's worth it, because the PV2D for me personally is a moneymaker, a big moneymaker. And if you cannot deal with the enemy with centrally mounted 850 caliber machine guns with a lot of ammunition in a medium bomber, then why would it be so much better with 50% firepower increase? For the SB2D, it's a 200% increase in firepower, because you go from 2 to 650 calibers with also a lot of more ammunition. For the A36, it's a fighter, so you need to use your performance to get on the tail of the enemy to make it work. And the drag from those gun pods, I'm not quite sure if it's worth it. I mean, it's nice to have them, and I think the ultimate gun pod is still either on the F82 or on the Stuka, the Ju87D5. So, because those are completely different scales of gun pod firepower upgrade. But for the PV2D, for the additional gun pods, you need to sacrifice your rocket and your bomb load. And with the bombs, you can take out 2 bombing points, and with the rockets, you can take out up to 4 light pillboxes or 4 tanks whatsoever. You even can go hunting some BV238s and so forth. So keep that in mind. It depends on the plane if it's worth it or not. Another very drastic example is the F8F1B. I don't think that it is worth to strap on some gun pods, because the 4 20mm Aiden cannons are more than just powerful. They are very effective. For the one variant without the cannons, with just the 4 machine guns, I can accept it that that doubling your firepower practically is worth thinking about. But again, think about the actual performance, and it depends if you want to transform yourself into a bomber hunter or just simply want to stay a very effective fighter. Same discussion for the BF109s with the 20mm gun pods. So it's up to you, but use your own brain. And yeah, that's it. So at this point in time, there is so much more to talk about that I practically decide myself to cut it right there. And from now on, I will answer some questions from the last Duck Talks, which is already 3 weeks ago. Yeah, sorry about this, guys, but there were some more interesting stuff to show on the channel. So, first question comes from Frederick Björnsson, I hope I pronounced that right. Hey Napalm, how do you think that Gaijin will implement the new tanks with the rounds that they had, especially the M1 Abrams UD round? And do you think that the UD round will be able to use its incendiary abilities? Love the wits and keep up the good work. Thank you very much. So, how it actually works out, I still have to test it. We cannot really 100% trust the stat cards of the shells, especially at the steep angles. We cannot really trust the penetration values of the shells. It is you know, a lot of testing involved. This is why I stated in the videos that I did, and one of the remaining ones releasing tomorrow, that you have to test it yourself. You have to get your own experience, and I tried to come at it, and I need to test it together with my friends over the course of a weekend or a few days of work. And after that, I will begin with the tank reviews, where then proper stats get hammered into your brain if you watch them. So if the UD round is really necessary, it depends on soft stats and game mechanics, and if the shell actually penetrates, and if they actually implement the depleted uranium. It's actually the U round if I think about it. So it depends, you'll see. Then J-Man Gaming asks, how do you set up your supercharger and prop pitch and other things on plane? That's called manual engine control. Look it up on YouTube. It's actually a video that I didn't make myself, but you will find some good ones, I guess, from Bismarck, an old one, something like this. And I just use the manual engine control for climbing, to cool the engine while climbing. When actually fighting and diving and so forth, I actually go back to the auto engine control. Then J-Man Gaming, can you do duck talks more often? Yes, but I think once per week or once per 2 weeks is actually more than enough. So that is actually it from this guy. The Reaper Z asks, I've watched videos where you talk about Panzer 58 and 61 and 68 question mark. First, which BR do you think these tanks would fit, and what do you think of the Austrian post-war tank, the SK 105 Cuirassier? If all 4 of those were added, do you think it would be enough to fill the gaps? Personally, I can't see any way to get fast tanks at 5.7 battle rating of those listed. And sorry for the long post. If an international tech tree would be added, it could be possible to split it into 2 pieces so they could face each other in game, and thus you could potentially solve the whole overpowered dilemma. Keep up the good work, and I hope to see you someday in game. So first of all, the international tech tree, it always depends where you put the tanks and if you implement power creep and so forth. I think an overall global decompression attempt from Gaijin is very much needed at this point in time, even a year ago and so forth. But Gaijin has this insane skill set to even make it worse, patch with patch with patch. About the light tanks for Germany, well, it would be favorable if we see even 2 of them, and whichever battle rating we have then for a tech tree tank is good enough, and you can up tier it and so forth. But we need something, even 1 or 2 tanks below 5.7 would just be so amazing, with the spotting mechanic, with the flanking, with the enemy team have to put effort into winning the flanking battle and so forth. So it always depends what Gaijin will come up with. Even a copy and paste tank such as the Walker Bulldog would be kind of good and preferable for Germany. So that's actually my opinion. Then Pavle H, question, do you think they have to rebalance the AP using tanks after the AP buff BR change, and what do you think of the under-tiered British tanks from 6.3 to 7.0? So in the time you asked these questions to now, some of the 6.3 tanks, namely the Centurion Mark III and the FE4 202, got up-tiered from 6.3 to 6.7, so we already saw that they got somewhat adjusted. They are still criminally under-tiered, as well as the 7.0 tanks, according to what the gun can do. Stabilizer, APDS, high rate of fire, AP buff, you name it, and add to this trolley armor, and you have some tanks that could fight at 7.3, 7.7. I'm not kidding. So rebalance tanks because of the AP buff. Well, there were just basically 2 nations that do not profit from this, and they are incidentally Germany and also Russia. Well, for certain lower tier Russian vehicles it's debatable, but for Germany they rarely use any AP shot at all. I think just for some premium tanks, the British Churchill that is captured, well, yeah, but it always depends. I think AP is still a bit overperforming at this point in time. A bit, okay? And people have said that the spalling effect is 25% too high and it will get reduced later on. We'll see how it goes. But I don't think it's really neck breaking. Then Deadman asks a simple question from me. How should we get more variants variation in matches. I mean, look at 7.7. Everyone drives a Leo, or 6.7. Everybody sits in a Tiger 2, T29, etc. How can we balance this that most vehicles get used to? Well, first of all, the vehicles need to be competitive at their respective battle rating. If a vehicle is over tiered and is weak and not fun to play, you know, it needs another battle rating. This is how this is what the battle rating system is for. And for the Tiger 2, well, Germany doesn't really have 6.7 tanks too much, don't they? So if you think about the old days where the Panther was at 6.7 and the Tigers were actually usable, different times really. So and for the T29, well, it's a very popular premium tank, and people just simply don't want to use other 6.7 tanks or 6.3 tanks, such as, for example, the Super Hellcat, which I absolutely love. Or you rarely see the M26E1 on the battlefield. The same goes for other tanks such as the Super Pershing. Who the hell plays the Super Pershing? Yeah, some poor fool who doesn't watch YouTube and hasn't played the tank before. So yeah, but also why the M56 is so rarely played, that you see it as often in 6.7 as you see it artificially up-tiered in 8.0 games and something like this. It's always depending on what the flavor of the month is, what the person's opinion is, which tank looks powerful, and so forth. Then Shaken Hagar asks 2 questions. How many? Oh, what for face reveal? You can't pay me for that. Second question, RTS games. Maybe someday, but not now. So yeah. Then a very, very long comment from creator Chris, and he begins with something like, hey Napalm, nice video. Can this comment get into a video of yours? Answer, no. Okay, jokes aside, he has a lot of questions and he argues with the mouse and so forth, battle rating reduction, the scope and the ammunition and so forth. Simple answer, mate. Compression is the problem, and we had this for quite a long time, and I made videos about it, I talked a lot about it. It's compression. If you don't feel like the tank being competitive, do yourself a favor, don't play it. I know it's a harsh answer, it's not a nice answer, but this is how it is. So I hope you are okay with this answer. Then Kenny Lin asks, how can Gaijin fix the forgotten Japanese tank tech tree? Do they need to fix almost everything in order to make the Japanese tech tree competitive? Well, I think that the Japanese tech tree is actually not that bad. It might not be the most well fleshed out one, but the tanks by themselves are not bad. I mean, let's have a quick look into it. Where is Japan and Army? I mean, we have some really nice tanks. For example, the Soki at 3.3 is one hell of a fun vehicle. Then something like the Chito or the Nato, the Chito Late, the Chiri 2, and then also a lot of the American tanks in it are nice. The light tanks in particular, M24, M41, they bring some diversity into it. You even have a premium Tiger. And then we must not forget the whole reproduction and prototype. And you know, you also have a radar SBA with the Type 87, and the Type 60 SBRG is also pretty nice to drive. I always like the Type 61. The STB1 and the Type 74 fully upgraded are fun, and they actually have stabilizers, you know, STB1 at 7.7, just to bring this to the discussion. The Japanese tech tree has its nice points. Where it really sucks is the CAS support. That's all that I'm saying. Retica99 has a lot of questions for me. First of all, greetings from Spain. Now let's talk seriously. XD. I have a special question for you. Why do you have an English-speaking YouTube channel instead of a German one? It's easier for you to talk in German than English. Well, first of all, I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of the words that I use are from other YouTube videos. Flaps, rather upper glaces, normalization, penetration, and so forth. I don't use those words in German. I mean, I could do it, and I have done 1 or 2 videos in German, Panzer 4 F2, and also the Jagdpanther videos that were in German. I might do some other German videos in the future, but very rarely, so just as a bonus, so to speak. And yeah, I began to make videos in English. I think I get a wider audience around the globe, and you know, there are a lot of channels in pure German. There are a lot of Germans in, I don't know, Polish and French and so forth. But this is for the wider audience, because I also began to work together with some English-speaking content creators. And lately, for example, Many Miles Away, you might have a look at our combined video, you know, where I talk to Miles for like an hour. Then it's just, I guess, habit. Yeah, I began to talk about War Thunder mostly in English. I played with other people. I played with people from other nations, and the only communication language was English. And yeah, so it's just a habit, and I think it's more or less established by now. Then the rest of the normal questions should bring back the channel chat to War Thunder instead of the actual one, that you can talk with people of the rest of the world. I don't know if this is really practical, and I use it myself, so I cannot really answer it. Then second, should reparation costs be free until you have fire prevention equipment and repair parts? To be honest, for the overwhelming majority of planes and tanks in the game, you have the first 10 battles for free after you unlock the vehicle, and for the overwhelming majority of them you have therefore enough time to get fire prevention equipment and repair parts with those 10 battles. It has its end at tier 3 to 4, and after that you really feel it, but it's better than nothing, and this is one way that Gaijin makes their money, so they will never change it. Then should add a special bonus of 100% to the first victory. It's practically like the ×2 in the World of Tanks. We had this once in War Thunder in the beginning, and to be honest, that was just for one battle for the entire nation, so not every single vehicle. I would love to see them being back, but they just go back for some rare events, and with this you make a lot, and I mean a lot, of RP, especially if you combine then a big booster, and if you combine a premium account and a premium vehicle with it, you can really make absurd amounts of research points. So again, Gaijin will not do this because it will cost them money, at least in their mind. I would love to see it. Then should XP and line bonuses work only with victories instead of losses and wins? Well, I guess you mean the boosters, and well, it would be best if so, but sometimes you have like those 20 battle boosters and you need to work yourself through it, and if you have then to win just games to get them being accounted, that would make defeats really bad, especially with certain of the teams. It's not that easy to make a win with certain American low tier teams. Oh yeah. Then what do you think that people in squads have more advantage in terms of communication spotting? Yes, of course. I think this is one of the main reasons that you go into a squad, that you have more intelligence, that you have more information, that you can communicate with each other. If you have spotted an enemy that you can't shoot, but probably your friend has a line of fire or a line of sight and is able to shoot him, but he has not spotted him, and you know, to then call out targets, for example in combined arms when you're in a plane and the other one is in a tank, and so forth. Then, is actually War Thunder's communication effective? Do you really think that people requesting supports are listened? Well, I listen to the communication attempts on the minimap, and this is where I got very often easy kills, because I move in and surprise the enemy that closes in for the kill for example in the tank. Or especially when bombers call out their targets, you know, which bombing points they go for. In American bomber squads, this is actually that the bombers have more communication than the fighters. Let that sink in for a moment. And that is the last question from Ratuka99. Then Kevin Gould, why no timestamps this time? Well, some of my subscribers just can watch the video and make a comment with all the timestamps and then earn a lot of likes and maybe be pinned on top of the comment section by me if he does. Isn't that an offer? Then, yeah, Jan H again. Napalm, what about Postscriptum, the Bloody Seventh? I have no idea what you're talking about. Übermacht asks, hey Napalm, I just got 7.0 Germany in tanks and I was wondering if it is even worth playing. Thank you. Well, it depends how much of a masochist you are, really. 7.0 Germany, I mean, they have some nice tanks, but those tanks have some issues in the bigger picture. Jagdpanzer für 5, horrible stock grind, 10.5 centimeter Tiger 2. It's kind of an oversized medium tank. Jagdtiger, well, if you can penetrate anything and your armor works, maybe. Kugelbitz, Panther 2, nice tank, but then a standalone tank. So there is the potential of a lineup and together with the planes and so forth. Yeah, technically, but I probably wouldn't play it anymore. Another comment is here from TK4211. Didn't figure you for a car guy, but a lot of War Thunder players are. No shit, Sherlock. You need a 911 GT3 for your Autobahn, Napalm, lol. And if you like the sound of V8s, our American V8s, you'd like mine. Well, first of all, I think V8s are fine. And they certainly have a good sound, but again, there are not that many cars that are really fancy. There are actually just a handful of cars that I would really love to drive because of their sound. One of them being the Lamborghini Murcielago, then also the Audi 90 IMSA GTO, which was forbidden in America because it was too fast. And then yeah, the Type C, built in 1936, I guess, 6-liter twin supercharged V16. Fantastic sound, just over the top. So Porsche is boring. They are high performance cars, they are fast, but they just don't give me the kick. They are just boring. Sorry to say this, and I'm going to trigger certain people, but the Porsche that I've driven, yeah, it was fast but not really exciting. That's the best summary that I can come up with. As if Talpur, thank you for answering my question. I'm currently in the process of upgrading my Tiger H1, Panther and Panzer 4G. Can you suggest which TD line I should go? Well, there are practically in the German tech tree 2 tank destroyer lines. The one on the very left side of the tech tree, if you look at it, with the Marder 3, Marder 3H, and Dicker Max, Nashorn, Waffenträger, Sture Emil and so forth. And on the very right one, excluding here the premium line, something like the Stuck 3s, the Jagdpanzer 38T, Panzer 470, Jagdpanther Ferdinand and so forth. I probably would go with the right line, you know, the Stuck 3, Stuck 42. They find a useful peak with the Jagdpanzer 4 series and also the Jagdpanther. The Ferdinand is something for specialists if you can overcome the lack of speed, can position yourself. That long 88 just, it has a high rate of fire in this tank. Jagdtiger is not that nice. On the other hand, you know, when you really want to go for high tier, then you go for the left line because the Jagdpanzer 5 is at least fast. The Raketenjagdpanzer 2 and the Raketenjagdpanzer 2 Hot are really nasty stingers, and so they can provide some useful support. So I hope I answered that question to your satisfaction. Another question is from Akex, Napalmratte, can you talk about stop grind? And he is practically describing the infinite joy that you have by upgrading a tank. I talk about it in the majority of my videos regarding a tank, how easy the stop grind is, how difficult it is. This is why I celebrated the Leopard 2K so much when it comes to the ammunition. This is why I actually don't like the Challenger too much, and I know this is a big issue even for me, and also for planes, you know, with all the belts, with all the bomb upgrades that make a bomber actually a viable bomber to actually get the RP that you need for further upgrades. And it's an endless story. This is the free-to-play model. Sorry about this, but I cannot change it, even if I want to. Dalma23 asks, how about we stop talking about Subnautica? I'm seriously interested in that and would gladly see separation of those two games on this channel. Well, they are separated, they have their different video titles. Also, I just made 2 videos about this, and I guess there are over 600 videos to watch through to overcome the dark times where I upload something like Subnautica. Really, come on. You can take. You're a big boy, aren't you? I mean, I understand people that don't like it, and most of you told me by not watching the videos. I saw the views. Some of you liked it because they are actually here for listening to me, which is really creepy because I'm mostly all about War Thunder. But nevertheless, I mean, it's been a while since I did you know, the last Subnautica. I might do it one next week, maybe, if I have enough time about this. Nevertheless, we'll see how it goes. Eloy Petro asks, hi Napalm, regarding trying out new games, do you consider giving a go at the IL-2 series, particularly after they introduced the Ground Forces expansion due out this year? First of all, I think I have no interest whatsoever in IL-2 Ground Forces. And I think one of the very first games that I played was actually an IL-2 game, but I had no idea that it was a simulator, and I found it way too difficult as a little boy with like 12 years back in the days. Maybe in the far future I might consider it, but for now, no, sorry mate, I'm not really interested in it, but thanks for the head up. True North Strong says, Napalm, I don't suppose you could do that video in English. Also, I'm very interested in that tank and would like to know your opinion on its thanks. I have no idea what you're actually talking about, but if you're making that comment, I suppose you're talking about the German Jagdpanther video. Well, I think I really like the Jagdpanther, and it brings some mobility to it, and what I talked actually in the commentary was a bit of German trash talking to a certain degree, but you know, it's a one-time off, and maybe I'll do a Jagdpanther video in the near future. So I guess this is something that I hope you can understand. So then a question from Rodrigo Villarreal, I hope I pronounced that right. Hey Napalm, great video. My question is, have you noticed that bombs got stupidly buffed after the rocket nerf? Like seriously, a 100-kilogram bomb can kill me in my Beagle Tiger from 5 meters away while hitting the front of my tank and my strongest armor. Hell, even those 50-kilogram orange bombs that some Spitfires carry can kill you because they land in the same zip code as you. Well, I guess if the bombs land beneath you, or the blast radius or the blast sphere touches your underbelly, it gets counted as being penetrated, and so even very small bombs can kill a very heavily armored tank, such as even a Tiger 2 or a T-95, because the belly is really soft. And I don't think that I saw any buff or nerf on bombs. Then Tim Ulbrich asks a question which also is respective to the Duck Talks previous to the one that I'm talking about, that he talks about the ME-163, and he asks for a battle rating reduction if the characteristic of the engine gets changed. And the funny thing is that the characteristic of the engine once was changed to allow it for zero thrust, so for gliding, if you have too much speed or if you're just having a non-combat time. And this was a kind of an improvement, but it's overall the ME163 and the battle rating that makes it not really that great, and even a battle rating reduction would mostly not lead to a solution for those issues. So I'm not quite sure about this. Swiss Cowboy 87. I would love to play more RRB, but it's just so boring and repetitive. Climbing for 5 minutes, then you make a little mistake and you die. Arcade just sucks too. So first of all, I think RRB is as repetitive as tanks, I guess. You have to find your niche. It depends what you make out of the battle, what you make out of the map, and how you play it also. And I think this is very important. I think compared to arcade, RRB is it has to be seen from a more tactical point of view. Teamwork has more influence. You know, certain combat tactics have more influence. And yeah, if you make a little mistake and you die after 5 minutes, you're just flying a German plane. It's just how it is. In every other plane, your skill really matters. Spitfires versus, well, Japanese planes, and Japanese planes versus Russian planes. They are somewhat on an equal playing field in the majority of cases, so it depends how exactly you use your plane. And if you have success, you don't mind the 5 minutes of climbing. This is a very, very important point of view. And then God Silk Zero asks, nice video, Napalm. Also, would you agree with moving top tier jets like the Hunter and so forth to 9.3? Yes, we need decompression. Every 0.3 point something battle rating increase of the top end jets would help to bring some breathing space for the 8.0s into there. So yeah, Aristo81 aka Myong Garong asks, what about cars? What do you think about your northern neighbor made cars? To be honest, I already made my mind up about cars. I think that every car company has a few nice cars, but my heart needs 4 rings. This is just how it is. Obviously, I'm not just loving Audi and also Lamborghini or Bugatti or whatever, but every car company has its special place. For example, from Mercedes, the SLR was fantastic, and many more cars from many more companies are out there. So so many people of you pointed out that you didn't watch my Subnautica video because you didn't want to get spoiled. Well, that's fair enough. So yeah, there it is. Then Prance, what do you think needs to change or to be added to make this game great again? Well, a lot of things, and I talked about it in multiple videos, amongst them also this one. So then FV19S Excalibur says, play RB with Max. RRB the lag squad. Well, funny, I see what you did there. But in all honesty, if Max is open for it, he knows me all too well, and I'm not quite sure if he wants. I'd love to do that, but I guess he has its reservations from it after his experience with some other salty guy. Not saying anymore, but yeah. So at this point in time, I just have to cut it. It's been a long Duck Talks already, like approaching an hour. Please keep the comments and the questions coming. Next Duck Talks, I will answer all of them. I just missed a few questions here. So a lot of thanks to you guys for subscribing to me, to stay with me, to make the comments, to give the videos a like, to provide me with information and support and the friendly recognition in the game. It's really nice to have this experience. 5 years of playing War Thunder. It's been a blast. Let's keep it going. And also I'm approaching my 2 years anniversary of making YouTube. Let's see how that goes. And at this point in time, I just have to cut it. And I say thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comment section everything about the topics that I just talked about. Have you a little YouTube channel? What are your experiences? What experience you have in the top tier tanks or fighting against them currently? And as usual, we'll see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.